Hello and welcome to the fourth tutorial in the introduction section to our Excel 2013 course. And in this tutorial we're going to go through some key terms such as columns, rows, cells, ranges, etc., which you may have heard me touch on in the last three tutorials. Also can do a little bit of work with some more formulas just to get you into the mood of how that works. And at the very end we're going to set you some homework just so you can see that what we've been building actually is sticking in your brains there. So first of all, some key things that you may have heard me touch on. You may have heard me talk about things called cells, and be wondering what are those. Cells are literally any of these intersections you see in an Excel document that I'm selecting right now. Each one of these is a cell, and they can contain text, they can contain numbers, they can contain formulas, even graphics, and a few other things, and we'll come to those throughout the course. For now though, just know that you can put pretty much whatever you want in there. If you can type it, you can go in. Cells are referenced so that you know where they are. So if you take it, for instance, here, I've got this cell selected. It's in this reference called M18, so I know that's cell M18. And also, Excel helps you know where these are, rather than having trace up and down, by saying the same thing up there, so you can know that's M18. And if I select different ones, you see what's up there changes wherever I click on. And whenever you hear about cell reference, it's only talking about this. It's the coordinates, if you will, of where that cell is in your document. You may have also heard me talk about something called values. Now, values are what is inside that cell, and typically that's going to be a number. So the cell will have a value if it's populated. For instance, this cell here is cell E5, that's its reference, but its value is 989. And that's all there is to know about cells. So that they can be resized by using these drag things here. They can be merged, which we'll come on to later. But they're pretty much, think of them as containers for your information. Rows and columns are fairly self-explanatory. Each line across here is a row. And again, they are referenced by these numbers. So you could theoretically call this row reference 17 or column reference H. And these go on throughout the whole document. And as I just said, these can be resized, they can be deleted, and they can be inserted. So if, for instance, you needed to put another line into this information here, you could right-click and choose Insert, and it would drop another column in for you. And you can do the same with rows. You can click here, for instance, right-click, and choose Insert. Similarly, they can be deleted. So if you put that in and realise you didn't want it, you can right-click it and choose delete. Simple as that. A key thing we want to talk about in this tutorial though is the difference between ranges and tables. Now effectively they are to a certain extent the same thing. They are containers, logical graphical containers for your information. Ranges, such as something I've got here, they're merely a contiguous selection of cells. Usually they are populated and they are always contiguous like this. So if I was to do this, then this, then this, then that, that is not a range. That is just 4 selected cells. But that would be a range. That's a range. That's a range, etc. So just think of a range for now as a contiguously selected piece of information within the document. It is possible to reference these by name rather than just coordinates of the cells, but we'll come into that a lot later in the course. Slightly different are tables. Tables tend to have headers on them. Tables tend to have the ability to filter them. That's probably not the best example, but if I go to this column here, because I've converted this information into a table, I can filter it to a particular month, so I can take all these out. There we go. And say I just want to see August, for example. So that's the advantage of using a table. It lets you filter it. They can also be named, and they have other functions which we'll come to. The most obvious difference, though, between a range and a table is that a table normally has a set of headings, whereas a range doesn't necessarily need one. There's a bit more to it than that, but think of it as that for now. Anything you select in Excel can also be moved, and Excel knows what you're doing when you move them. So as an example, what I've got here is I've got this cell here where I've put this random formula where I've added up these numbers and times that by 105 and divided it by what's in the cell here. So just to show you that working, if I change that to 40, for instance, you can see that number changes. Now, I can move this. Notice this is currently on I4, and that's what that says in the formula there. So just to let you know what I've done, that formula I've repeated here in text, so you can see it says I4 there. So this is saying whatever's in this cell. And if I now then select this cell and put my cursor on the edge of the cell, you see the icon changes to the 4 arrows, and that means if I click and hold and then drag, I can move it elsewhere. If I put that there, notice how the results are the same, nothing gets broken, the maths is still the same, but the formula has auto-updated itself. And this is a key feature of Excel. You can move things around to make it look how you want it to look, but the actual data information that's going to come out of it, unless you tell it otherwise, will always remain the same. So let me just pop that back. You can see it updates the back there, and it's all still the same. So moving on to your homework, what I'd like you to do, using this demonstration file which we're going to provide, your homework is to use the knowledge from this and the last 4 tutorials to work out the 2 ways of getting the average of all the values in the years 2010 and the year 2012 combined, leaving 2011 aside. You should be able to do this given what we've been over, but if you get stuck, watch the videos again, and if you're really stuck, download the second homework answer file we provided. So that's an introduction to Excel. See how easy it is? It's going to get a lot harder though, I'm sorry, but the next section of the course is going to take a look at everything in more detail, and we'll see you there.